The first round hit at 22:45 hours. I saw Petty Officer Noah drop the instant the bullet punched through his helmet, like someone had flipped a switch. 1 second he was there, the next he was gone. The rest of us scattered on instinct, melting into the darkness, but it didn't matter. There was nowhere to disappear to. The enemy sniper was running thermal optics. To him, we weren't shadows or shapes. We were bright heat signatures, glowing like flares against the cold Afghan night. I could almost feel his eyes on us. "Sniper, multiple positions," Chief Warrant Officer Ethan Harper shouted into the radio. His voice cracked just as another shot snapped past his head, so close it stirred the air. He missed death by inches. Then another man went down. Then another. It was happening fast. Too fast. We were being wiped out piece by shooters we could not see, could not find, and could not fight. The mountains were pitch black. No moon. Thick cloud cover. We were blind, and the enemy wasn't. They had the high ground, prepared positions, and all the tools they needed. They owned the night. "Skywatch, this is Alpha Team," Harper yelled into the radio. "We're pinned down by multiple snipers with thermal capability. 3 operators down. We need immediate support." The reply came cold and steady. "Alpha Team, nearest air support is 40 minutes out. Ground reinforcements are 60 minutes. Can you hold your position?" Harper looked around at what was left of us. 7 men, flattened against rocks and narrow ridgelines, trying to make ourselves smaller than we were, trying to breathe quietly, trying not to glow. Another rifle cracked. The round slammed into the rock less than 6 inches from Harper's face. Harper chips exploded outward, and fragments sliced his cheek, drawing blood. "Negative, Skywatch," he said. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before they kill us all. These snipers control the night." That was when a new voice broke through the chaos on the radio. Calm. Almost casual, like someone ordering coffee. "Alpha Team, this is Night Watch. I can hunt them. Send me your coordinates and stay low." Harper froze. None of us had ever heard of Night Watch. "Who the hell is this?" he snapped back. "We need real support." "I am 300 meters northwest of your position," the voice replied. "I've been tracking enemy movement for the past hour. I count 10 snipers spread across a coordinated kill zone. They are using advanced targeting forward-looking infrared weapon sights. I can take them out, but you have to trust me. Stay down." Harper shook his head, disbelief clear in his voice. "You're one person. We need a platoon, air support, something." A scream cut him off. One of our guys went down hard as a round shattered his leg. He was alive, but he was done. That made 4 casualties in less than 3 minutes. "Chief," the voice said, firm now. "You are out of time. I am moving. Turn off your infrared strobes. Do not fire at muzzle flashes. You will expose your positions. I've got this." Harper didn't argue anymore. He couldn't. His team was bleeding out in the dirt. "Copy, Night Watch," he said quietly. "The night is yours." What Harper didn't know, what none of us in that valley understood, was exactly who had just checked in. Staff Sergeant Riley Carter was the deadliest night hunter the Army had. 3 combat tours. A specialist in hunting enemy snipers in total darkness. 200 confirmed kills, most of them made when there was no light at all. She had been attached to special operations missions as an observer because the accepted belief was simple. You could not hunt snipers at night. Not against thermal optics, not against prepared positions, not against enemies who owned the darkness. Doing that was considered suicide. She was about to prove every one of those assumptions wrong. Riley had spent 3 years proving that conventional wisdom was dead wrong. She moved through the Afghan night like she wasn't even there, a ghost slipping between shadows. Her night vision gear wasn't just a standard issue, it had been specially modified, giving her advantages that even the enemy's thermal scopes couldn't match. What was about to unfold over the next 3.5 hours would prove one simple truth. Some hunters were deadliest after the sun went down. But before we dive into exactly how she took out 10 enemy snipers in complete darkness using tactics that would change night combat forever, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button. This story proves the most dangerous predator is the one hunting in total darkness. Now, let's get into it. Riley had been tracking the SEAL team as they walked right into the ambush for 20 minutes. She had tried to warn them through the command channels, but bureaucracy and strict protocols had slowed her voice. By the time the messages could get through, it was too late. The team was pinned in a kill zone that had been carefully prepared over weeks, a valley floor ringed by ridges with 10 enemy snipers holding overlapping fields of fire. She had been tracking those snipers for 3 days. She knew where they were, how they moved, how they hunted. These weren't amateurs. Former military, well-trained, disciplined professionals. In daylight, they were nearly impossible to detect. But Riley didn't hunt in daylight. She waited for nightfall, knowing the darkness would make the enemy arrogant. They had thermal scopes that let them see heat signatures. They thought that made them invincible. What they didn't know was that Riley had spent 6 months working with DARPA on experimental night vision technology that blended thermal imaging with advanced image enhancement. She could see exactly what they saw, and more. She could see the environment around them, the thermal bloom of their bodies, the faint heat from their rifle scopes, tiny temperature shifts in the terrain that betrayed their positions, even when they were hidden behind camo. The first sniper was 450 meters to the northeast, perched on a rocky outcrop that gave him perfect oversight of the valley floor. Through her advanced optics, Riley could see him clearly. He was lying prone behind his rifle, scanning for targets through his thermal sight. She was 380 meters away, hidden on a parallel ridge he didn't even know existed. Her SR-25 rifle was loaded with subsonic rounds and fitted with a suppressor. When she fired, the shot would be nothing more than a quiet crack, dissolving into the mountain air, almost impossible to trace. She controlled her breathing, accounted for the wind shifting across the ridges, and instinctively judged the shot with the ease of years of experience. The enemy sniper shifted slightly, adjusting his aim. Riley squeezed the trigger. The suppressed rifle whispered. Through her scope, Riley saw the enemy sniper's thermal signature suddenly go slack, collapse like a flame snuffed out. He never even knew what hit him. 1 down, 9 more to go. She didn't pause. The cardinal rule of night sniping was simple. Never fire twice from the same position. Snorts. She low-crawled 20 meters to a fresh vantage, each movement deliberate, silent, and carefully masked by the surrounding rocks. Her heat signature was hidden, blending perfectly with the terrain. The second sniper was 520 meters to the south, tucked into a dried riverbed. It offered him both concealment and a perfect line on the SEAL team below. Through her optics, she could see the faint flash of his rifle, even with the suppressor in place. Riley waited, patient, knowing his focus would be on the team. When the next muzzle flash flickered, she fired. The subsonic round flew, taking 1.2 seconds to reach its target. He was already cycling his bolt for another shot when her bullet arrived. His thermal signature flattened, and just like that, 2 down, 8 to go. Now the remaining snipers would start to sense something was off. 2 of their teammates had gone dark within 3 minutes. They would try to call in, find no answer, begin scanning the terrain for threats. But Riley was already moving again, slipping through shadows and rocks, leaving nothing behind to follow. The enemy snipers were focused on the valley below, hunting the SEALs. They weren't looking behind themselves. They didn't imagine that someone could be stalking them from the ridges they assumed were safe. The third and fourth snipers were paired up, 340 meters to the west, nestled in a cluster of boulders. One was the shooter, the other the spotter. Smart pairing, making them both more dangerous and harder to eliminate. Riley angled herself perfectly on both targets. She watched the spotter first, the one scanning with thermal binoculars. If she didn't take him, he would see her. 355 meters at a slight downward angle. She adjusted for geometry, held her breath, and squeezed the trigger. The spotter's thermal glow vanished. The shooter reacted immediately, turning toward his partner in alarm. That split-second distraction was all Riley needed. 3 seconds later, a second shot silenced the shooter. 4 down, 6 to go. On the valley floor, Chief Warrant Officer Ethan Harper watched his remaining SEALs huddle behind whatever cover they could find. The enemy fire had stopped. For 30 long seconds, nothing came from the surrounding ridges. Silence. Too perfect, too deliberate. The suppressed rifle barely made a sound. Through her scope, Riley saw the enemy sniper's thermal signature go slack, folding in on itself like a candle snuffed out. He never even knew what hit him. 1 down, 9 more to go. She didn't waste a second. The golden rule of night sniping was simple. Never shoot from the same spot twice. Snorts. She low-crawled 20 meters to a new position, each movement slow, precise, and completely masked by the rocks around her. Her heat signature blended perfectly into the terrain. She might as well have been invisible. The second sniper was 520 meters to the south, hiding in a dried-up riverbed. It gave him cover and a clear line on the SEALs below. Through her enhanced optics, she could make out the faint flash of his rifle, even with the suppressor. Riley waited patiently, knowing his attention was locked on the team. Then the flash came again. She fired. The subsonic round took 1.2 seconds to reach its mark. He was already working the bolt for another shot when her bullet landed. His thermal signature went dark. 2 down, 8 left. Now the others would start to sense something was wrong. 2 of their teammates had disappeared within 3 minutes. They would try to call in, find no response, and begin scanning for threats. But Riley was already moving. Shadow to shadow, rock to rock, leaving no trace, no hint of her presence. The remaining snipers were focused entirely on the valley below, hunting the SEALs. They weren't watching behind them. They had no idea that someone was stalking them from the ridges they thought were safe. The third and fourth snipers were working as a team, 340 meters west, hunkered down in a pile of boulders. One man was the shooter, the other the spotter. Smart tactic. It made them more effective and harder to take out. Riley lined up both targets with precision. She started with the spotter, the one scanning the valley with thermal binoculars. If he lived, she'd be seen. 355 meters away, slight downward angle. She adjusted for the slope, steadied her breathing, and fired. The spotter's heat signature disappeared. The shooter spun toward his partner in alarm. That brief moment of distraction was all she needed. 3 seconds later, a second shot dropped him. 4 down, 6 to go. Down on the valley floor, Chief Warrant Officer Ethan Harper watched the remaining SEALs huddle behind whatever cover they could find. The enemy fire had stopped. For 30 agonizing seconds, nothing came from the surrounding ridges. Silence. Too neat, too deliberate. Something was coming. The second sniper had made it to new cover, hunkered down behind a large boulder, 410 meters away. He thought he was safe, but he had stopped in just the wrong spot. His thermal signature peeked out around the edge of the rock. Riley didn't rush. She measured the angle, lined up the narrow gap perfectly, and fired. His heat signature vanished. 8 down, 2 left. The last 2 enemy snipers had gone completely dark. They'd shut off their thermal scopes, frozen in place, trying to shrink into nothing. They knew they were being hunted by someone far more capable than themselves, and all they could do was hope she couldn't find them. But Riley had been tracking every one of these snipers for days. She knew their favorite positions, their backups, their escape routes. She knew exactly where they would try to hide. The 9th sniper had retreated to a narrow rock crevice 600 meters southeast. Perfect protection, perfect concealment, completely invisible to thermal imaging. The rocks swallowed his heat signature entirely. Riley didn't need thermal imaging. She had seen him prepare this position 2 days earlier. She knew exactly where he would be. She fired at the spot where experience told her a prone sniper would line up for a shot. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a faint thermal glow appeared, the warmth of fresh blood standing out against the cold Harper. 9 down, 1 to go. The last sniper was the toughest of them all. He hadn't moved in 10 minutes, not a twitch, not a signal, nothing to give away his position. But even the best make mistakes. After 12 minutes of absolute stillness, he shifted ever so slightly to ease cramped muscles. That tiny motion produced a brief thermal bloom, visible for less than 3 seconds. 3 seconds. That was all Riley needed. She tracked the anomaly, calculated where a sniper would position himself there, and fired. The 10th sniper fell silent forever. Alpha Team, this is Night Watch. All 10 enemy snipers eliminated. You're clear to move. Chief Warrant Officer Ethan Harper stared into the darkness, trying to wrap his head around what had just happened. One person had taken out 10 enemy snipers over 3.5 hours of night operations. Snipers who had his entire SEAL team pinned down, dying in the shadows. Night Watch, Alpha Team. What's your position? We need to link up, Harper said. I'm coming to you, Chief. 3 minutes, Riley's calm voice replied. She moved down from the ridges, night vision giving her perfect detail of the terrain. 3.5 hours in darkness, moving between positions, taking shots most snipers would call impossible. By the time she reached the valley floor, the SEALs were still pressed against rocks, clutching whatever cover they could find. Chief Harper stood as she approached, and even in the low light she could see the disbelief on his face. She was 32, average height, lean from years of climbing mountains and operating in harsh terrain. Her gear looked unlike anything the SEALs had seen. Specialized night vision, optics far beyond standard issue, a rifle customized for night operations, and tools that could detect both thermal and electromagnetic signatures. Staff Sergeant Riley Carter, she said, holding out her hand. Sorry I couldn't warn you before you walked into that ambush. Command channels were backed up. Harper shook her hand, still trying to process what had just happened. You just eliminated 10 enemy snipers in total darkness. How is that even possible? Riley gave a small shrug, calm as ever. Training, equipment, and experience. I specialize in nocturnal counter-sniper operations. The enemy thinks thermal optics make them untouchable at night. They're wrong. Darkness doesn't help them. It just makes them confident. And confidence makes them predictable. One of the SEAL operators, Petty Officer Liam Bennett, stepped forward, eyes wide. Ma'am, I've been operating in these mountains for 8 months. We've been trying to find these snipers for weeks. How did you locate all 10 in a single night? I've been tracking them for 3 days, Riley explained. During daylight, they're nearly impossible to pinpoint. Too much cover, too many possible positions. But at night, they rely on thermal optics to see. And those optics emit a tiny electromagnetic signature. I can track that. Plus, their body heat stands out to the right equipment. Night is their weakness, not their strength. Meanwhile, the SEAL team medic was working on the 4 wounded operators. 3 would survive. Their injuries were serious, but manageable. The 4th, Petty Officer Noah, the first one hit, was dead. The round had struck a weak point in his helmet. Riley felt the familiar weight of being almost too late. If she'd been able to warn them earlier, if the command structure hadn't delayed her intelligence, but she couldn't change the past. What she could do was make sure these enemy snipers never hurt anyone again. Chief, she said, turning to Harper, I need to verify the eliminations. Make sure all 10 are confirmed dead, and collect any intelligence from their positions. Can your team assist? Harper nodded firmly. We'll split into teams to check each spot, but I'm coming with you to the first one. I need to see this for myself. They moved through the darkness toward the nearest sniper position, 450 meters to the northeast. When they arrived, Harper raised his night vision to examine the body. The enemy sniper lay exactly where Riley had said he would be, dead. A single, clean shot through the head. His thermal scope still in position, warm from recent use. Harper looked at her incredulously. "You made this shot from where?" 380 meters from a ridge on the opposite side of the valley, she said quietly. "He never knew I was there." Harper crouched down, scanning the sniper's position through his night vision. Professional. Perfect cover, excellent field of fire, planned fallback routes. This was no rookie. These were trained soldiers, probably former special forces operating in these mountains for months, killing our people without mercy. And yet, she had taken every one of them out in a single night. They were good at what they did, Riley admitted, but they made one critical mistake. They assumed the darkness gave them an advantage. In reality, it just made them visible in a different way. Heat signatures, electromagnetic emissions from optics, movement patterns, all of it is more obvious at night if you know what to look for. She paused, her mind flashing back to the final target. After 12 minutes of absolute stillness, the last sniper had shifted slightly, just a tiny adjustment to ease cramped muscles. That tiny motion caused a brief thermal bloom as his body pressed against the rock in a new position. Less than 3 seconds, but that was all she needed. She locked onto the anomaly, calculated where a sniper would likely be positioned there, and fired. The 10th enemy never made another sound. "Alpha Team, this is Night Watch. All 10 enemy snipers eliminated. You're clear to move." Harper stared into the darkness, struggling to comprehend what he had just witnessed. One person, one lone operator, had wiped out 10 trained snipers over 3.5 hours of night operations. Snipers who had pinned down his entire SEAL team and were systematically killing his men. Night Watch, Alpha Team. "What's your position?" "We need to link up," Harper said, voice steady despite the shock. "I'm coming to you, Chief. 3 minutes," she replied. Riley moved down from the ridges, her night vision painting the terrain in sharp, precise detail. She had been operating in total darkness for 3.5 hours, moving between vantage points and taking shots that most snipers would consider impossible. By the time she reached the valley floor, the SEALs were still crouched in their defensive positions, eyes scanning, bodies tense. Chief Harper rose to meet her. Even in the shadows, he couldn't hide the disbelief etched across his face. She was 32, average height, lean from years of mountain operations, and calm as ever. Her gear looked unlike anything the SEALs had encountered. Specialized night vision, a rifle optimized for nocturnal operations, and advanced detection equipment capable of reading thermal and electromagnetic signatures. Her gear included equipment for detecting both thermal and electromagnetic signatures. "Staff Sergeant Riley Carter," she said, extending her hand. "Sorry I couldn't warn you before you walked into the ambush. Command channels were backed up." Harper shook her hand, still trying to process what had just happened. You just eliminated 10 enemy snipers in total darkness. How is that even possible?" "Training, equipment, and experience," Riley replied calmly. "I specialize in nocturnal counter-sniper operations. The enemy thinks their thermal optics make them untouchable at night. They're wrong. Darkness doesn't help them. It just makes them overconfident, and confidence makes them predictable." Petty Officer Liam Bennett stepped forward. "Ma'am, I've been operating in these mountains for 8 months. We've been trying to locate these snipers for weeks. How did you find them all in a single night?" "I've been tracking them for 3 days," she explained. "During daylight, they're nearly impossible to pinpoint. Too much cover, too many potential positions. At night, though, they have to use thermal optics to see, and those emit a subtle electromagnetic signature I can track. On top of that, their body heat creates patterns visible with the right equipment. Night is their weakness, not their strength." The team medic was busy treating the 4 wounded operators. 3 would survive, their injuries serious but manageable. The 4th, Petty Officer Noah, the first one hit, was dead. The round had penetrated a weak point in his helmet. Riley looked at the casualties and felt that familiar weight of being almost too late. If she had been able to warn them sooner, if the command structure hadn't delayed her intelligence. She couldn't change the past. What she could do now was make sure these enemy snipers never killed anyone else. "Chief," she said, turning to Harper, "I need to verify the eliminations. Make sure all 10 are confirmed dead and collect any intelligence from their positions. Can your team assist?" Harper nodded. "We'll split into teams to check each location, but I'm coming with you to the first one. I need to see this with my own eyes." They moved through the darkness toward the nearest sniper, 450 meters to the northeast. When they arrived, Harper scanned the body with his night vision. The enemy sniper lay exactly where Riley had said, dead from a single shot through the head. His thermal scope remained in position, still warm from use. "You made this shot from where?" Harper asked. 380 meters from a ridge on the opposite side of the valley, she replied. "He never even knew I was there." Harper examined the position. It was professional. Good cover, excellent field of fire, carefully planned fallback routes. This wasn't an amateur. These were trained soldiers, probably former special forces. They had been operating in these mountains for months, killing our people with impunity, and yet she had taken them all out in a single night. They were skilled at what they did, Riley admitted, but they made one fundamental mistake. Her gear wasn't ordinary. It could detect both thermal and electromagnetic signatures, giving her an edge that few could match. "Staff Sergeant Riley Carter," she said, extending her hand. "Sorry I couldn't warn you before you walked straight into that ambush. Command channels were clogged." Harper shook her hand, still trying to wrap his mind around what had just happened. You eliminated 10 enemy snipers in total darkness. How is that even possible?" "Training, equipment, and experience," Riley said, calm as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I specialize in nocturnal counter-sniper operations. The enemy thinks thermal optics make them untouchable at night. They're wrong. Darkness doesn't help them. It just makes them overconfident. And overconfidence makes them predictable." Petty Officer Liam Bennett stepped forward, disbelief clear in his voice. "Ma'am, I've been operating in these mountains for 8 months. We've been trying to find these snipers for weeks. How did you locate all 10 in a single night?" "I've been tracking them for 3 days," she explained. "During daylight, they're almost impossible to pinpoint. Too much cover, too many potential positions. But at night, they have to rely on thermal optics to see. Those optics emit a slight electromagnetic signature I can detect. Add to that the heat patterns their bodies create, and night becomes their weakness, not their strength." Meanwhile, the medic worked on the 4 wounded operators. 3 would survive, their injuries serious but treatable. The 4th, Petty Officer Noah, the first one hit, had died. The round had struck a weak point in his helmet. Riley felt the familiar weight of almost being too late. If she'd been able to warn them sooner, if command hadn't delayed her intelligence, she couldn't change the past. What she could do was make sure these snipers never killed anyone else. "Chief," she said, turning to Harper, "I need to verify the eliminations. Make sure all 10 are confirmed dead and collect intelligence from their positions. Can your team assist?" Harper nodded. "We'll split into teams to check each spot, but I'm coming with you to the first one. I need to see this for myself." They moved silently through the darkness to the nearest sniper, 450 meters to the northeast. When they arrived, Harper raised his night vision to inspect the body. The enemy sniper lay exactly where Riley had said, dead from a single shot through the head. His thermal scope remained in place, still warm from recent use. "You made this shot from where?" Harper asked. 380 meters from a ridge on the opposite side of the valley, she said. "He never even knew I was there." Harper studied the sniper's position. It was professional. Solid cover, excellent field of fire, fallback routes mapped. This wasn't an amateur. These were trained soldiers, likely former special forces operating in these mountains for months, killing our people without consequence, and yet she had taken them all out in one night. They were skilled at what they did, Riley acknowledged, but they made one fundamental mistake. I watched the fifth sniper make his mistake. He tried to relocate, probably thinking a new angle would save him. That movement lit him up just enough. His heat stood out against the colder rock like a smudge on glass. Riley tracked him smoothly, led the shot, and fired. Just like that, 5 down. The sixth and seventh snipers tried a different approach. They froze. No movement, no adjustments. They were hoping stillness would make them invisible, but they left their thermal optics running, and those systems gave off faint electromagnetic signals. Riley caught them instantly. She marked both positions and sent the coordinates. 2 SEALs fired at the same time. 7 enemy snipers were gone. The last one was different, smarter, more disciplined. He shut everything down. Thermal optics off, body still, no signals, no movement. For 10 minutes, there was nothing. No heat, no emissions, no clues. It was like he had vanished. Then Riley noticed something small, barely there. A tiny thermal irregularity that didn't match the terrain. It could have been the sniper, or it could have been nothing at all. She didn't rush it. She waited. That's what separated her from everyone else. She let time work against him. After 12 long minutes, the anomaly shifted. Just slightly. Enough. She fired into the darkness at a target most people would never risk shooting at. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a heat signature bloomed. The warmth of a body collapsing. Blood heating the cold Harper as it spread. "Alpha Team, all targets eliminated," she said over the radio. "Move in and verify." The verification took an hour and a half. Every position was checked. Every body confirmed. 8 enemy snipers, all killed with single, precise shots in complete darkness. The intelligence pulled from their gear, and notes exposed enemy networks that had been operating in the region for more than a year. By then, this wasn't an isolated event. Riley's night hunting tactics had taken out 16 enemy snipers in just 2 months, men who had been killing coalition forces without consequences for years. Back at base, the debriefings were intense. Word spread fast through the special operations community about the sniper everyone had said couldn't exist, the one hunting other snipers at night and winning. After one debrief, Colonel James pulled her aside. "Staff Sergeant Carter," he said, "what you've done is going to change how we fight at night. The Pentagon wants you to build a formal training program for nocturnal counter-sniper operations. They want your methods taught across all special operations units." Riley didn't hesitate. "Ma'am, I'll train anyone willing to learn," she said, "but you need to understand something. This isn't about me being special. It's about mindset. We've been treating darkness like a limitation. That's the mistake." She paused, then finished the thought. Darkness isn't a disadvantage. It's an advantage, if you know how to use it. The fifth sniper made a fatal choice when he shifted to a new firing position. That single movement produced a faint thermal trace, one that contrasted sharply against the cold Harper around him. Riley caught it instantly. She tracked the motion, calculated the lead, and squeezed the trigger. 5 eliminated. The sixth and seventh snipers reacted differently. They froze completely, trusting the darkness to hide them. But while their bodies stayed still, their thermal optics remained active. Those devices continued to leak electromagnetic signatures, subtle but unmistakable to Riley's sensors. She tagged both locations and passed them to her team. 2 SEALs fired at the same moment, 7 down. The final sniper was the most disciplined of them all. He powered down his thermal scope, stopped moving entirely, and blended into the night almost perfectly. For 10 full minutes, there was nothing. No heat, no motion, no signal. Then Riley noticed it. A microscopic thermal irregularity, barely there, slightly out of place with the surrounding rock. It could have been the sniper, or it could have been nothing at all. She didn't rush. She waited, letting patience do the work. knowing that no human can remain perfectly invisible forever. 12 minutes later, the anomaly shifted. Just enough. That was all she needed. She fired into the darkness at a target she could hardly see. For a brief second, the night remained silent. Then a new thermal bloom appeared, a body falling, blood warming the cold Harper below. "Alpha Team," she said calmly. "All targets neutralized. Move in and confirm." Verification took 90 minutes. Every one of the 8 enemy snipers was confirmed dead, each killed by a single precise shot in total darkness. The data recovered from their firing positions exposed enemy sniper networks that had been operating in the region for more than a year. In just 2 months, Riley's night hunting methods had eliminated 16 enemy snipers, men who had been killing coalition forces freely for years. Back at base, the debriefings grew increasingly intense. Stories spread quickly through the special operations community about the night hunter who was doing what everyone else believed was impossible. After one briefing, Colonel James pulled her aside. "Staff Sergeant Carter," he said, "what you've done is going to redefine night operations. The Pentagon wants you to develop a formal training program for nocturnal counter-sniper warfare. They want this capability across all special operations units." Riley nodded. "Ma'am, I'm willing to teach anyone who wants to learn, but I need to be clear about something. This isn't about me being exceptional. It's about realizing we've been thinking about the night all wrong. We treat darkness like a disadvantage when it should be seen as an advantage." With the right training and equipment, she explained, any skilled operator could do what she did. "Maybe," the colonel replied, "but you proved it first. That makes you the expert." Over the next year, Riley trained hundreds of operators in nocturnal counter-sniper tactics. Her methods became official doctrine for special operations units in Afghanistan and beyond. Enemy sniper activity plummeted. Darkness, once relied upon as protection, now exposed them. The thermal optics they trusted became beacons, guiding American night hunters straight to them. Chief Harper requested Riley for 3 additional operations over the following 6 months. Each time, her teams located and eliminated snipers that conventional units had failed to find. Her confirmed total rose to 34 enemy snipers, all taken during night operations. Not a single operator under her command was lost. The SEALs talked. Quietly at first, then openly. There was an Army staff sergeant, they said, someone who owned the night, who hunted snipers in total darkness and shattered everything they thought they knew about nighttime warfare. During one joint mission, Riley and her SEAL team pursued a particularly elusive sniper. He had killed 7 American soldiers in just 3 weeks. He appeared only at night, fired once or twice, then vanished without a trace. Intelligence suggested he was former Russian Spetsnaz, one of the most capable enemy combatants in the theater. Riley tracked him for 5 nights, studying his habits, mapping his patterns, predicting where he would strike next. On the 6th night, she took a position he would never anticipate, below his firing perch instead of across from it. When he settled in for his hunt, she was already waiting. The shot came from 290 meters at a steep upward angle. The bullet threaded through a narrow gap in the rocks. The sniper collapsed, his rifle tumbling down the mountainside after him. When they recovered the body, they found records confirming he was responsible for more than 40 coalition casualties. 1 shot, 1 kill, 1 legend ended by another. Eventually, the Pentagon made Riley's training program mandatory for all special operations sniper teams. Her tactics, equipment guidance, and operational procedures formed the backbone of a new era in night warfare. She lectured at Fort Bragg, Quantico, and classified training facilities across the military. Officers and enlisted personnel alike came to the same realization. The night was not the enemy's territory. It was neutral ground, and it favored whoever understood it best. "The enemy believes darkness protects them," Riley told her students. "They think thermal optics make them unbeatable. But every advantage creates a weakness. Thermal devices emit signals. Movement creates heat. Confidence leads to patterns. Learn that, and you can turn the hunter into the hunted. Her reputation spread beyond the military. Intelligence agencies, federal law enforcement, and allied nations all requested her expertise. Still, Riley stayed focused on one mission above all else: protecting American operators from enemy snipers who believed the dark made them untouchable. By the end of her deployment, enemy sniper effectiveness had dropped by 70% in areas where her teams operated. The tactical impact was significant. The psychological impact was devastating. Enemy snipers who once thought they owned the night now feared it. They knew that somewhere in the darkness, American operators could track and eliminate them with deadly precision. For years, everyone had said it was impossible. No one could hunt snipers at night. Thermal optics made the enemy seemingly untouchable, their positions too hidden, their training too professional. Staff Sergeant Riley Carter proved them wrong. 10 snipers eliminated in her first operation, 7 more in the next. Dozens over months of operations. She turned the night from the enemy's advantage into their most dangerous vulnerability. She taught Special Operations Forces a simple truth. Darkness wasn't something to fear. It was a tool to be mastered. The enemy had relied on superior optics and professional tactics to dominate at night, but those same tools made them visible to someone who knew how to hunt in shadows. Riley Carter knew. In the dark mountains of Afghanistan, she became the predator the most skilled snipers couldn't see coming. They believed thermal optics made them invincible. They were wrong. The darkness belonged to the hunter who understood it best. That hunter was a 32-year-old Army Staff Sergeant who had spent years perfecting nocturnal warfare. 10 snipers before dawn, then 7 more, 34 in total over her deployment. The SEALs learned to trust the night hunter. The enemy learned to fear it. Riley moved through the darkness like she was born to it, eliminating threats everyone else had deemed impossible to find. Some predators hunt in daylight. Others own the night. Riley Carter proved which was deadlier. Every enemy sniper who underestimated her learned that lesson exactly once, moments before a subsonic round arrived from a direction they never expected, fired by a hunter they never saw. 34 confirmed kills, 0 friendly casualties, hundreds of operators trained in her methods. Her legacy wasn't just the numbers. It was a revolution in how American forces approached night operations. Before Riley, darkness was feared. After her, it was weaponized. Enemy snipers still operated at night, but now they did so knowing that somewhere in that darkness, a hunter might be calculating angles, tracking heat signatures, waiting for the perfect shot. The psychological impact was as lethal as the bullets themselves. Fear altered behavior, slowed operations, and gave American forces the upper hand. That fear had a name: Riley Carter. The night hunter who proved darkness wasn't protection. It was just another battlefield where skill, technology, and determination decided who lived and who died. The SEALs once said, "No one hunts snipers at night." Riley Carter shattered that myth, one precise shot at a time. By the time the operation ended, the night belonged to America again. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to hear more powerful stories of brave women in uniform.